that I hear, you know what I mean, basically the new stuff.
What you're hearing today is a regurgitation of everything that's happened before.
It's not real, and like where.
Well, it is.
It's like how are the people that are going to be next going to be able to see, to be able to conceive what real is actually? You know what I mean, like as in music, as far as music.
But
goes.
everything goes in cycles. Don't forget. I mean, here we are in 1996, and I know my kids, my son who's 19 and my daughter who's 14, they listen to the stuff that I was doing, and I'm going, wow, you're into Jimmy and stuff, and they go, yeah, we love Jimmy. And look at the influences on, I mean, I look at this guy with the tie-dye shirt and all that stuff, and, you know, the 60s are here again because it's a 30-year cycle or a 25-year cycle. It's inevitable. You know, there's nothing new in the world.
Well, basically, I think what I'm trying to ask is, like when you when you were about my age or whatever, did you feel...
How old are you, 16?
I'm 16. No, as a matter of fact, I just turned 12.
Okay, no, sorry.
But what I'm saying is, while all this, I mean, because to me, of course, you know, that was the greatest thing that ever happened. You know what I mean? But while it was going on, did you see that? Wow, this is a new form. This is a new form of music. Or were you just like, okay, this is just some normal music happening right now? You know, I mean.
You know, I was so caught up in the recording of the music, it didn't really matter, and there was so much of it. And maybe because I was lucky, I was in a certain space and time. I was in the 60s, and I was in England, and the music thing was happening, and we had Hendrix and Stones and the Beatles and all the stuff, but we're still listening to it today. I didn't really realize that I was doing something that extraordinary. It was not extraordinary. It was because I was wrapped up in it. I couldn't see that. In fact, I had real blinders on to everything outside of me. I mean, I just went recording. What's the next project? You know. Now I look back on it 25, 30 years later and say, wow, that stuff is pretty cool, you know. And it's still influencing people today. Jimmy stuff will continue to influence people today. I don't know a guitar player who is not influenced by Hendrix to some extent.
I mean, that is to me. Whenever I listen to any of the recordings, I feel like, oh wait a minute, oh there they are in the other room getting something. You know what I mean? It feels real. It feels like they're there, and it feels like I can really tune into.
It's unadulterated. It's also unadulterated. It's not overdubbed too much. I mean, yes, there were overdubs, but the spirit of the music was so strong that it carries through to today. Good question.
I also have a two-part question.
You realize that there is a fee for the second question.
I understand that, but I think it's worth it.
Did you bring your checkbook?
Wait a second. The first part has to do with all the posthumous releases of the Hendrix albums, be it from Warner Reprise or
Polygram,
or Ryko or Poly or any of those folks. How do you feel about everything that's come out? The Live at Winterland, the Radio 1?
Total. Well, with a few exceptions, it's crap. Anything Alan Douglas had his hands on is total shit. He should be hung, drawn, and quartered.
Excellent. Well,
and his head was handed to him on a platter in the court of law, thank God. The family now has the exclusive rights to all of the material. As I was saying, we've preserved, hopefully, touch wood, the legacy. Future stuff that'll come out will be on vinyl, high grade, will have the benefit of the doubt of the latest of technology and the best of it and the best converters that money can buy. And incidentally, all of those albums were made from EQ copy tapes. No wonder they sounded like crap. We found the flat masters. So the new stuff will be the way it's supposed to have been.
Terrific. The second part kind of ties right into that. I guess I am aware of 4 different mastered series of the Experienced albums. 3 different ones on Warner before MCA, and I've done somewhat of an experiment listening to vinyl from different countries. What do you think would be the country of choice of origin and the format which Hendrix himself would like to listen to his own music if he were alive today?
Tough question, because Jimmy was a little unhappy with the way, certainly Electric Ladyland was mastered. In those days, I was not involved in the mastering. That was only an innovation that happened later on. There were problems mastering in those days. Phase content was a big struggle to get on vinyl. Nowadays we can work around that. And we can incorporate the stuff that was really on the tape. In terms of what sounds best, I would lean towards the English test pressings, or rather the English pressings. I think they captured more of what Jimmy was about than did the American ones. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir, with a tie-dye shirt.
Peace.
Peace.
You are
No.
astonishing to just talk to you because you are just quite the recording god. And
That book, take that book away. Go away with that book.
my
Ugh.
question with that book is, I read the beginning and it included
Throw it
that
away.
you were not participating in it.
Correct. And neither would I.
And you participated in your own 2 books that you wrote,
Right.
which is...
Setting the record straight and Sessions, yes.
And so that book is not a proper representation?
I don't think so. And one of the reasons why John McDermott and I started to write books about Jimi Hendrix is because of books like that, which were non-representative of the people who were directly involved, although it taps into some of it. But this guy comes from a very peculiar way of thinking. His agenda is a little strange, to say the least. I'd like to think that our books are honest and from the heart and speaking from with the people who actually worked with Jimmy. That book is a bit of a whatever. You're certainly welcome to read it. I mean, there's no harm in reading it, of course. But it started with David Henderson's book, which I thought was total trash. And John came to me and said, "Well, what's up with this guy? I mean, how come he didn't talk to you?" You know, that's what started this whole thing.
I'm glad that it's going to be proper, and I will be reading both those books. Other question is, artist The Beautiful People. If the
Yes.
60s were 90s,
Yes.
your feeling on that? I know in the back it says, quote by Jimmy saying, freak out with my music, do anything you want with it, and I really think they did.
That's a bit of a liberty, but go on.
They captured quite a sound, and I really dig what they did with that album, and I feel they did it properly to represent Jimmy.
Do you think it did represent Jimmy?
I felt they represented it properly, and the inlay covering where they pulled the samples from, and didn't
Yes
seem
and no.
to
I
be
mean,
seated.
that's a matter of personal taste. I think it was quite clever. I'm not so sure I agree with the premise that I think Jimmy should take my music and do anything with it. The problem that I have with it is that Alan Douglas got involved in it, and it's tainted from my perspective. Even though I think they did a good job, it's okay, but I feel so strange about tampering with his music. I really do. I have very mixed feelings about it. That's all I can say about it.
Thank you.
You need to read a couple of books. He's a persona non gratis. Basically, as Michael Jeffries said, Michael Jeffries was Jimi Hendrix's manager, said, Alan Douglas is the enemy. Do not let him in. I had to kick him out of Electric Lady once. It gave me great pleasure.
Hello, Mr. Kramer.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Can I digress?
Please
Ah.
do.
It's funny, you were talking about Electric Lady, which we haven't really even talked about. The studio. It was designed and built by one of your teachers, John Sturrock. Ow, 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 ow. Johnny boy. Funny story. Do you know how it was built? Do you know what the story is behind it and how John Sturrock was really pissed off?